I mean, I'm reading all the time anyway, so might as well. I'm trying to remember. Do we have
Right?
an actual intro, Alex? Or
Yeah, kind
we
of.
just keep
It's
talking?
yeah, well, it's flicking the page. It's like a sound of a page flicking, and then you
No,
talking
I mean
about
like
something.
me. Do I have an opening spiel? Do I do an
Oh, I,
opening spiel?
I don't
Have we
know.
really set an opening spiel? I can't recall.
I don't think we have. I'm not gonna lie. I think this is going to be a fantastic intro with us trying to decide if we have an intro.
Oh, this all stays in. This is all
Oh,
staying in.
100%.
Well,
I'm a big fan of only cutting out things for us sounding completely stupid or awkward pauses and such.
oh yeah, no. Cut it truncates silences. It's a great
Yep.
tool on Audacity. I love it so much.
Hmm.
But I guess they're with us. We're almost a minute into it. Hey folks, hi listeners. Welcome to the August 2026 edition of the Graphic Book Club here for Graphic Policy. My name is Matthew Klein. I am one of your co-pilots today, as always, joined by the lovely, talented.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about me. I'm Alex. I disagree
I
with lovely and
was.
talented. Yeah, there we go. Overly humble and too modest, I'm sure.
Well, we're gonna get Alex to pick up on his cues in upcoming episodes. We're gonna work on timing. It's gonna be great, and you're
Yeah,
all
and
gonna be
I'm going to
here
try and
on the journey
avoid
with us.
truncating that so we can all get that awkward pause of me realizing Matthew's talking about me for a bit.
No, you should leave that pause in. That's like the one pause you don't
That
truncate,
that's
because
it. That
then
is
you kill
definitely
the
the way to
bit.
go.
You'd have to get rid of the next like 35 seconds of us talking about how it was there was an awkward pause. But
Yeah.
this is a podcast where we are your monthly geeky club here on Graphic Policy. As you know, every month we spin the wheel and we make the deal of what we're going to be reading. And this month we got a great one for you. We have DC's The New Frontier by Darwin Cook, came out in 2004. It is heralded as one of the greatest Justice stories of all time, one of the greatest Green Lantern stories of all time, one of the greatest DC books of all time. It was absolutely amazing. And not only did we read the book, we did the extra credit assignment, and we both also watched Justice League New Frontier, the DC AU film that came out. So we got a lot to get into on this. But before we do, because we tend to, at least here in year one, we've been sort of tying in a lot of our picks with the big media moments, because we're trying to grow our following here. We need SEO to be in our favor as we build ourselves up. And last month was Spider-Man Maximum Carnage, and we did it right before going to see Spider-Man Brand New
Brand.
Day. So we gotta start with a little movie review. Alex, A, did you go see the movie? And B, what do you think of it?
I did go see the movie, and I think I need to reevaluate listeners. If you listened last month, you would have remembered that we did our top 3 or 5 Spider-Man movies when in preparation for this. We were both, well, maybe you'll have to reevaluate. I definitely need to reevaluate where I land with Spider-Man Brand New Day after having watched it. And I think without, it came out last month, without giving too much away, this is by far the best I think I've seen Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I I also went in completely blind. I went in at the very first show at my theater. I stayed off social media. I had no idea who was in the movie either, to be fair. I went in assuming it was going to be Spider-Man, Hulk, and Punisher versus the Hand, or something like that. And I thought, oh, we'll probably maybe Daredevil's a surprise appearance or something like that. I had no idea, and I was blown away with the story. I thought the story was fantastic. I thought the hints for what's coming up was brilliant. It works as a standalone Spider-Man movie. It works as part 4 of Tom Holland's saga. It works to kick off the next phase of the MCU. But I think overall, it's one of the few Spider-Man movies that also stands alone as a really good movie. It isn't something like No Way Home was fantastic, but I think a lot of my feelings on that were because of how long I had spent with Spider-Man before the other franchises, Garfield, Maguire. I think this one, while it still touched on what had come before, you didn't have to see it all. You get so much more out of it if you have seen a relationship with Ned and MJ, but if you don't, I still think you could get a lot out of it just with the loneliness that they're feeling and how something isn't quite right. I'm going to stop because I feel like you're going to give a much better summary than I did. I assume you also saw the movie, Matthew.
I did. I was not able to see it opening weekend. I saw it on the first Monday. But I remain spoiler free from the reveal of who Sadie Sink is.
I had no
It
idea
has
she was even
been.
in the movie. Like,
You didn't know you were this. This is how you know, listeners, that Alex has not been on social media for like a year, because
yeah,
everything about Spider-Man, like they even did, Alex, you'll love this. They did a whole viral marketing campaign where she was giving hints as to who she was, just to make fun of all the speculation that had been out there in media. So
that is amazing.
you are just living a much less stressful, more mentally healthy life than me, and I applaud you for that. For being off social the way you must have been to not have known Sadie Sink was in this movie.
Like, I
Um,
think I saw something, or oh, this person is doing a press tour for something. Like I remember seeing an article saying this person is doing a press tour for something without the rest of the cast. I'm like, oh, that sucks. But I never read who it was or what it was for. In hindsight, it was Sadie Sink for Spider-Man Brand New Day, but I was just blissfully unaware. So yeah, like I don't think anyone is going to have the same experience I did going in having no idea she was even in the movie.
which is a
I
great
think
experience.
it's
I
so
love this
good.
for you.
It
I
was so
love this
good.
for you.
I think if I'd have known, I would have assumed it was Mary Jane, like or another form thereof, or another character that would be a
Sure.
redhead that maybe Peter has another love interest with. Had no idea who it was, and it was absolutely fantastic.
I had a blast. I thought it was a lot of fun. A little long, maybe might have trimmed a little bit here and there. Um, I thought, I'm with you. I think it's the best performance for Tom Holland as Peter Parker. Um, I think in part because he's finally allowed to act a little closer to the age that he is. I also think that it really helped focus in that this was truly Peter's story and not Peter being fitting into the larger Marvel universe or reacting to the larger Marvel universe happenings. He really just got to establish his own world, his own status quo, and this was his story, not his story in service of or coming out of someone else's story.
Yeah,
So I really thought he was given enough space to finally make it his own. And I'm like you. I'm much more excited for the next Spider-Man movie coming out of this, because I think there's a lot more cool fertile ground. I want to see this version of Peter Parker and this version of Spider-Man. I I don't I still don't think it's my number one. I think Spider-Man 2 is still my number one up there, but I definitely, it's, to your point, No Way Home is fantastic, but No Way Home is fantastic because I spent 20 years with the Spider-Man film franchise. So it works for me like a cheat code.
hmm
Um, so I can't say on its own it's a great movie. This on its own is a really good Spider-Man movie. So there's no caveat I have to weigh my rankings with. in this one. I loved all the performances. I liked Sadie Sink's performance. I think she didn't have a whole lot of room at times. I don't I she didn't always hit for me. I thought this was also Zendaya's best performance as MJ, hands down, without question, by a country mile, as they say in certain parts of the U.S. Um, so that was really exciting. I thought John Bernthal was hilarious and served a really fun purpose in here. And the action was cool. I'm a huge Jean DeWolf fan, also, so it was really neat seeing her step in as sort of the person on the force. And if anybody out there and is familiar with Jean DeWolf, she is part of, unfortunately, one of the best Spider-Man storylines of all time. The unfortunate part of that, I will leave you to Google on your own as to why, but when you find out the name of the storyline, you'll get it immediately, and you have some idea of where it could go with that character. I had a friend who saw the movie, and I really didn't think about it till afterwards, but she said to me she thought that they approached the male loneliness epidemic very well with him. And I having rethinking of it in those terms, I agreed. I thought that they really, really did a phenomenal job sort of using this lens through there. So overall, really, really great. I'm hoping maybe I can see it one more time in theaters if I can find the time and the money to go. But yeah, no regrets. Let me put it this way: the movie was way better than the book we read. That's for sure.
No,
I
I,
I've
I
actually
think
thought about lowering my rating for Maximum Carnage since we done, but there are no takebacks, so I can't retroactively do it. Although maybe one day when we have enough episodes, Alex, we
I
go
don't
back and we go.
I
We can
don't know if I
retroactively
want
make
to do
one adjustment.
I don't know if I want to revisit it because that means I have to read it again.
Yeah,
Now,
no, never.
I
I don't think I've got that in me. I don't
no,
think I've got it
I
in me.
I think what's amusing to me about it is that Maximum Carnage came out in the mid 90s, and DC New
Boy, did it.
Frontier uh, DC New Frontier, as you said, came out in 2004. I don't know what happened in those 10 years between Maximum Carnage and DC New Frontier. I don't know if it's just Darwin Cook being allowed to be Darwin Cook. I I had never read New Frontier before until I started. Um, Funny story, listeners, as I'm sure you remember, last week, and in fact last month and the month before, I thought, oh, I've got to start reading this before we record, and I barely finished both books in time. This month, I'm like, I am not going to do that again. I am going to read this weekend before we record. And I start recording or I start reading, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're recording Tuesday. I've done it again. I don't know how that happened. I was a week behind myself. However, I still finished it not today. I finished the book yesterday. So it's still very fresh for me. And I have to say, Matthew, you had said at the beginning of the show that New Frontier has been heralded as one of the great DC books, a great Green Lantern book, a great Superman story, all of these many things. I I would put it up there for my money with Mouse, Watchmen, and yeah, with Mouse and Watchmen is some of my favorite books in the comic book sphere. And I say that as someone who is not really a DC guy. My DC knowledge and love starts with Batman and honestly usually ends with Batman minus the odd story here and there. I don't know what I could put up against a New Frontier from Marvel that would be able to hold its own to someone who hadn't really read either. I think it's one of those books you can give someone to, why do you read comics? Read The New Frontier, because you don't have to know what goes on beforehand. It is a self-contained story from start to finish. it doesn't matter who Batman is. I mean, it helps if you know who some of these characters are. I had no idea who Adam Strange was. I'd seen him on covers. Like, I shouldn't say no idea. I'd seen him on covers, recognized his name, but beyond that, couldn't tell you. It's for my money, and again, like, this is one of the I read the DC compact version, which, as we have said before, isn't the best way to read these books, but I couldn't get the actual heart or the grown up version, the real version, in time to get it. Now, I still intend to own that version because it is something that I want for my shelf. I will give the New Frontier that I have to someone else because it is a brilliant book that someone else should be able to read and enjoy. That was a long segue, and I realized I haven't given you a chance to interject. But I can see by the look on your face that you're happy that
No, I
you
want
were
to let
right,
you go.
and
I have
you
felt
picked a great
bad
book.
about interrupting you in previous episodes. Like, I want you
That
to get your thoughts now.
no, that is
New
fine.
Frontier is a seminal book. You know, one of the questions I always ask my guests on Comics for You, cheap plug, find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, RSS, all anywhere you can find podcasts. But one of the things I always ask my guests in our bonus content is like, what are 5 first reads you would give somebody who's new to comics, visual storytelling, you name it? And a lot of people will say Watchmen, and I would say, for the reason you're giving somebody Watchmen, give them this instead.
Mm-hmm. I
This
actually
shows
think.
you, yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. I actually
No,
think
you're fine.
if you're giving someone Watchmen who is new to comics, that is a mistake.
I
I
agree. I agree
Watchmen is a
wholeheartedly.
brilliant book, and I absolutely love it. But it is not a book to start someone with comics because it deals with it inverts a lot of tropes and expectations that fans of the medium will have, and to a lesser extent, it's good enough that by the time you're done reading it, like, man, what else is that good? Not much.
I think it's
But
too.
like,
I think it's too much to put on a new reader. Is
agreed.
Watchmen like? You need to have some basic understanding of what comics are first before you can understand how he and Dave Gibbons are both playing by the rules and also simultaneously breaking all the rules. And it's brilliant. It changed comics for sure. I'll take that away from it. But for somebody brand new to the art form, give them DC New Frontier by Darwin Cook. You introduce the concept of world building that is inherent in a lot of comics. You give them a seminal, clean, one and done reading experience. You introduce them to an entire mythos of characters for one company in one fell swoop. The artwork is held up as some of the greatest of all time. It's engaging. The color work's incredible. The storytelling is top notch. He does play with bringing in the use of like newspaper articles, so you even still go a little bit outside the form. It shows the idea of like, why are superheroes important in culture, and society is touched on in this book in a really fascinating way. It shows you the potential for making comics and storytelling that are timeless allegories for what's going on, because this is a book, dear listeners, as we'll get into here, but this is a book that uses the idea of evaluating post World War II into the early 60s Cold War hysteria time period. And it is the idea of what is heroism during troubling times, during a world where good guys and bad guys are no longer clear as they were in World War II, where it is about political machinations and ideology and partisanship that are driving the decision in terms of who you help, how you help them, why you help them, if you help them, and how you get into this idea of a surveillance state of governments, agencies that are in the name of greater good overstepping the bounds of privacy, that are you touch on the civil rights movements, and understand this was being done at a time where we as the United States were dealing with the new war in Iraq. And you had the Patriot Act that had given unparalleled access of surveillance power to the United States government at that point, where you had a lot of fear of the other, where you had the, in many ways, a little bit of the inkling of what became what is now the normal level of partisanship in this country. But it felt like the divide was getting deeper and wider starting then. So, it was a really timely book that showed you a time that feels as relevant today, 22 years later, when I read it, which is incredible. And that's why it's so great to give to someone where it does not feel like a relic of its time, where Watchmen feels kind of dated in its art style, in its dialogue style, and the way it uses captions, whereas this does not. This feels like it will be as vibrant and fresh and accessible 30 years from now as it is today, as it was 22 years ago. So that's why I would put this book, which is essentially a Justice League origin story, right? Like the end of New Frontier is the formation of the Justice League. You have the very end of it is the button, is they come together to face Starro, and this big overarching threat called the Center, which is very much meant to be this poison force of quote unquote back in the 60s communism, whereas in 2004 you would probably argue it would be anti-immigrant sentiment in a lot of ways, and then this sort of brings them together and says the world needs heroes to unify for a greater purpose, to show them the example that we need to be beyond governments, beyond personal ideology. And then but it shows you the why the world needs heroes, why it needs something greater than ourselves, a symbol to look towards, to aspire to. And it's great. Darwin Cook is one of the greatest artists in the history of the medium. Like, can't say it enough. It's tremendous.
No, you touch on one of the thoughts I had. You've touched on it indirectly. Is that this is a book that is, and I think will remain timeless, because, folks, if you haven't seen the art for the New Frontier, I recommend you put us on pause or just Google it as you're doing whatever you're doing right now. It is both evocative of the time period that it's being set in, 50, late 40s, early 50s, 60s style of art that a lot of comics had back then, and yet it is still undeniably modern in some of the details and the way that the Darwin Cook plays with characters and figures and foregrounds. It is, again, Frank, is not the hyper detailed realism that you may see in someone like Juan Jose Reed. It is not the overly simple thing you might see on something like a Dennis the Menace comic, but it just has this perfect synergy with the story that's being told that I don't think anything else would work to the same degree as Darwin Cook and what he's done with this book. I also didn't pick up that it was a Justice League origin story until almost the very end of the book. I was reading them halfway through. I'm like, I don't even know what this book is about yet. I don't care because I'm enjoying it so much, but I have no idea what this book is about. It's one of those stories that I just got lost in. And I think I read maybe 30 pages one night and then thought, I better put this down. I'm getting a bit tired and I don't want to, like, I found that I skipped a page without meaning to, and I didn't want to do that. So I put it down, and the next day finished the entire thing in one sitting. I was just sitting there reading, and my wife was going back and forth doing so. She's like, "You okay? You've been invested in that book." I'm like, "Yep, fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good." She's like, "All right." So she just kept doing her thing, and I was sat on the couch reading I think I read the next 400 pages in one go, which was not a short sitting, but it was. I haven't done that in so long. Like read a full graphic novel in so long. I also always try and pick up where the issues end. It's just a habit I've always had, like picking up, where does one issue end, the next one begin in the collection. 9 times out of 10, unless you're in some reading something that's deliberately putting the covers in at each time, you just don't notice it. I had no idea where Darwin Cook had ended the issues. I know there were 12 or 13 issues of the series. I couldn't tell you where one ended and one began. Honestly, I really couldn't.
Well,
I
he gives you
assume.
all those chapter breaks in there, right?
Yeah, but
So
some of them
like
are midway through, and there's some really short
yeah,
chapter
yeah,
breaks
yeah.
as well. So I'm like, this could be, in theory, I knew roughly, and I was assuming like, so at the beginning you have the losers, and then you have the next part. I thought, I think the losers is probably chapter 1 or issue 1, but after about the third issue in quotation marks, I gave up caring because I was just lost in the story. It's one of those things that I probably would have noticed it had I been paying attention most of the way through, but I just I was enjoying it too much. I think that listeners,
Well,
if you
yeah.
if you gave up, if you were thinking or questioning our choices last month, Matthew has redeemed us because this was your suggestion.
Damn right it was. I'm not
And
taking credit for Maximum Carnage, but I'll take credit for
no,
this
that was
one.
me. Hey, Maximum Carnage was me. I'm happy to admit when I suggested a shit book. I hadn't read either, so it's not like I'm trying not to cheat and suggest things I've already read because that isn't ideal. Uh, I think you get a more honest take if you've read something more recently, especially when we're talking about it like this. I had no idea what what to expect going in, and it's I think I can
So
confidently say this has become my favorite DC story I have read in a long time. There may be,
there you go.
especially Justice League story or DC Universe as a whole. There may be some Batman stories I prefer over it, but there is nothing in comparison for anything featuring more than Batman, like Justice League or anything like that. I have read than the new than the New Frontier for me.
Well, let's give them a little recap. We should get into the plot a little bit here
I,
for
I could just go. I
folks,
could gush
but
over the book. Yeah.
we will. We'll gush as we do it. I mean, I like to because I'm still brand building on social media, so I have to post regularly. So I take like screenshots if I'm reading it digitally. I was on this one because I wanted the art. I didn't want to do a compact. I wanted to see the art on a big one, and I like being able to zoom in on certain panels and lines that
Mm.
digital allows you to do. And I was just like, okay, well, I want to snap like a few pages and use them in post. And I think I have 40 pages that I took snaps of because the artwork is top tier. I mean, it's some of the best artwork in the history of comics. Darwin Cook is your favorite comics artist, favorite comics artist. Um, and we start on this one. It starts in 1945 and it basically ends in 1960 with so you start at the end of World War II and you go to the end of the Eisenhower administration. New Frontier is very much and he puts it at the very end of the book. The New Frontier refers to John F. Kennedy's New Frontier speech in 19, I think it was 1960 or 61, as he was just becoming president, and it's a speech about looking ahead to tomorrow, and it was really announcing like the space race. Basically, he was like, "We're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade." He didn't know if he could, but it was around that time. So the New Frontier was really referring to America saying we will conquer space, we will go to the new frontier, but we will also go to the new frontier as culture, as society, and not be afraid of it, but embrace its newness and its undiscovered. We begin in World War II with the losers who all go to this sort of like mysterious island. Um, and it turns out there's some freaking dinosaurs there. And you think it's like the land Time Forgot, which was a very fun, like, 1940s war story sci-fi concept. And the losers all meet really grisly ends. But it's also there where you meet Rick Flag, um, who sort of picks up the baton from the losers and makes sure that their story is told, and documented, basically. And then you start going ahead in essentially chronological time order, and you see, that Superman is now an agent of the U.S. government, and he's going all over the world fighting communism, and he has roped in Wonder Woman on this. She's having a lot of misgivings about it, and there's this great scene where you first see Wonder Woman in, I think it's Vietnam. I think it's supposed to be Vietnam. No, it's Korea. Excuse me, because you're in the Korea War, and U.S. Korean War, and like she's liberated these female prisoners, but she reveals that in liberating them, she gave them a choice to slaughter their captors, and they very much did. Um, and then you jump from there, and you get into sort of the origin story for Martian Manhunter, who is brought to this world accidentally by a scientist who was reaching out to communicate with Mars. And he comes in, but in doing it, he gives the guy who is communicating such a fright that he has a heart attack and died at the sight of a Martian, which I found hilarious and just the most Silver Agey stuff ever. Um,
Agreed.
Feels
I
it.
thought I laughed at that. I thought it was
Yeah.
fun. I mean, it was funny, but at the same time, kind of like not even kind of, but it was almost sad because like, oh, the one guy
Sure.
that knows him, however briefly, died at the sight of him, and that's gotta have an impact on a character too.
Well, and it does. Like, he really, now he's this sole survivor who's stranded. Not sole survivor, excuse me. He's just like a guy from another world who's now stranded on this one. And they make a quick little throwaway mention of, like, in the the transportation through the beam or whatever, his mind is sort of scrambled, so he doesn't quite remember who he was on Mars or his family, which I'm like, yeah, you're going to need that for future plot lines. I get it. And then, but then you also jump and you see the history of superheroes since World War II, which is you have the Justice Society of America, and America with the Red Scare and HUAC has come for vigilantes and has forced them to unmask. And so the Justice Society, instead of unmasking, simply retired and said, rather than unmasking and giving up our freedom, autonomy, we are going to protest by saying you don't get heroes anymore. Um, and so that's why Superman now works for the U.S. government. That's how he roped in Wonder Woman. And then there's people like Batman, who are basically now vigilantes, who are on the side of the law, who are outrunning them at every turn. But you also see the death of a character named Hourman, who is being, like, was helping people as a vigilante, is being chased by the cops and falls to his death, and 4 officers die in the fracas as well. Um, that's a little bit of sort of the setup there. And then you meet a fighter pilot whose name is Hal Jordan. Well, first you meet him as a boy, which I love that scene.
Mm-hmm.
You meet a kid named Hal Jordan who finds the pilot who was with his dad when his dad died on a mission, basically. Gets his autograph and everything. And that comes back to play later on in the story. Um, and really, you then see how in Korea, it's the day the armistice has been signed between the U.S. and Korea and North Korea. But apparently, some of the Korean soldiers have not gotten word that the war is over and the stalemate has happened. So his planes are shot down, and Jordan has a reputation for not killing anybody in combat. He is unwilling to take the lives of others for his country, but he's very willing to give his own life for his country. And in as he is trapped in enemy territory, the North Koreans are coming for him, and he's trying to remember the language to tell them in Korean that the war is over and that they need to stop fighting. But he is so panicked that the words do not come to him. And he ends up having to kill someone, or else he knows he is going to be knifed to death. And it's a phenomenal moment of sort of that it really represents this sort of loss of purity for the American military and the American image. We can no longer say unequivocally there's no unnecessary blood on our hands as a nation post World War II. Um, and and for Hal Jordan, it's the loss of something pure in him, where he goes to a place he did not know he would go to and he does not like, and it sends him into a mental health spiral. And the moment that ends the whole sequence is as he's being flown away and rescued, he's able to remember the words he tried to say in Korean, and that's all he'll say. Basically, he's having a breakdown as a result of it. Phenomenal scene about the horrors of war and the trauma that soldiers go through, and the pieces of themselves they left over there in those types. Then where do we go to next, Alex, from all that?
You go to the challenges of the unknown, I believe. I say that because that's the next scene I remember, because I remember getting confused that it was the two of them, but uh, no, is it a challenge? Sorry, I'm currently looking up in the book. Oh, you go to another scene with John. That's where you actually meet John Jones.
Oh, you
After
meet him
that,
after
you
the
meet him
North Korea thing.
after,
Yeah.
yeah, the Korea. Then you see the
And
scene with Superman and Wonder Woman in
yep, that I described
Nam.
earlier. Yeah.
Yep. So then after that, we're looking at, and again, like that scene with Superman and Wonder Woman, I thought was fantastic because she just gave them the freedom of choice.
Right.
She said, I could have killed all of the men holding these women hostage and doing what they're doing with them. And instead, I disarmed them, let the women out, and left the weapons in the clearing. What happened then was effectively fate doing what fate does. And Superman's like, but why didn't you try to save them? And you think like, why should she? Wonder Woman is giving
Right.
these women a chance to have their own agency back, and they took it. And I think it's a prime example of the naivety of Superman, where just because he wouldn't do something and he could almost save everyone, doesn't mean everyone necessarily needs to be saved. And I thought that was
Sure.
a prime Boy Scout moment. And yet at the same time, I
Mm-hmm.
get where he's coming from, because he can't. I think Superman has always been so powerful that he can't allow himself to be the judge, jury, and executioner. That he has to bind himself to the law. Otherwise, he could end up in well, we've all seen Superman turns evil comics, right? So we've all seen those. We all know what could potentially happen. And as that scene wraps to a close, we go to, I thought, a really interesting section of the Martian Manhunter watching TV. I have never been as fascinated about a character watching TV as I have been with the Martian Manhunter learning about Earth by watching TV and taking on different shapes, and at one point he's even Bugs Bunny. You see him as an older gentleman, a Native American, and then finally he settles into
You know what
being
those
a.
are? Do you remember? Do you know what he was? So the older gentleman is Groucho Marx. That's a
I did
so
not pick
because
that up. That is fantastic.
that's Groucho Marx, and the Native American is at the end of the day, broadcasting would end. You didn't have broadcast 24/7 for
Hmm.
television for many decades. And they would just put this one screen at the end of the day, and usually it had that Native American image on there. So he was literally just imitating
What he saw.
the image that he would see for hours every night, basically, on there.
Fascinating.
And then he gets inspired by cop movies, and he says, if I'm going to be here, I want to be a force of good and I want to help people. And so I'm going to be a detective. And since I'm John Jones from Mars, I will be John Jones, the detective. He's in Gotham. And he ends up teaming up with one of my favorite characters of all time, which is a PI named Slam Bradley, who was the star of Detective Comics before Batman. Um, and is a character that Darwin Cook would bring back when launching Catwoman um, with Ed Brubaker, first as Selina's big score, and Sam Bradley became a love interest for a few years with Selina Kyle in there. And he's a private investigator and a hard-boiled guy. And they are going off and they are trying to rescue a kidnapped child who has been abducted by a cult. And that's really where you first hear about sort of the big bad that's known as the Center. And it's basically a doomsday cult, essentially. But it's also where you get to see Batman arrives to save the day, because we also learn Manhunter's weakness is fire, which is a rough weakness to have. One of the elements, really
Yeah.
tough to go through it. But and then there's the scene at the end of it where Batman saves the day and rescues the child, but the child is terrified of Batman because the costume, and Slam, I think, pulls the kid away and is like, "We don't need you, freak. Go back to wherever you came from or whatever." Because Slam is sort of an anti-vigilante guy. He is subject to the prejudices of the day, and John can't be is trying to be a little bit more like, you're different like me, but you mean well, so it's fine. Um, but that's really where you first get the idea of who the big bad of the book is going to be, such as it is. Because truly, like, the big bad the center is not a very strong through line
No, I
series. It comes up little bits here and there
I'm really
until the
interested
end,
to
basically.
reread the book and see what I missed when it comes to the big bad. Like, how much did I not pick up as it was going through? Like, at what point did I wonder, wait, is like you said, at what point do I pick up the big bad is involved in the book right from the beginning? Because I sure didn't do that the first time through. And again, I had so much fun reading the book, it didn't bother me. But I think in some ways I was enjoying it so much. It was so well written. I was in love with the art that I definitely didn't think about it as much as I probably could have. And again, like I went into Spider-Man with no expectations, sometimes not thinking about a story and not thinking about a book as it goes on is a great way to enjoy it.
Well, and this is a book that rewards rereading, which is fun. In part, just study the panels,
Hmm.
study the artwork. Like, it is just a master class in sequential storytelling, um, on a page by page basis. Quite frankly, it's incredible, and you can see Cook has so much fun introducing all these characters and establishing the colors and the tones of it. You do see the birth very briefly of Barry Allen Flash, and you get a little aside that he was reading a comic book based of Jay Garrick, the original Flash from the Justice Society of America. Um, you also get into the really big romantic plot of the book, which is Hal Jordan and Carol Ferris. She gives him a job because he basically can't get a job because of his PTSD. He had to go get help, and it's sort of blackballed him from being allowed to fly, which is a thing. If you are a pilot and you have documented PTSD, they will not let you fly. Um, unfortunately it encourages a lot of pilots to hide their PTSD, and when they apply for like commercial or private pilot jobs, it's really sad, unfortunately. Like, on the one hand, you get it, but on the other hand, it also encourages, you know, a really tough road to hoe for those folks. So, and in the 50s, there's a lot of stigma about being, soft, and having mental illness is not talked about. And, regretting killing in the name of your country is not really seen as a noble trait. It's like, how many Koreans did you kill? How many Japanese did you kill? How many Nazis did you kill? You bragged about it. Was sort of the bravado and the image back then. So the idea of regretting killing as a soldier was really not looked upon positively by society. So she gives him a job. He becomes a test dummy basically for parachutes and all sorts of things until he finally gets fed up with it one day, and he is brought into the bigger revelation where the U.S. government has known about the communication with Mars. They think that there is a Martian living here, and the government operation run by a guy named King Faraday, who's a great Silver Age character, is basically reveals to Hal Jordan that they are going to fly to Mars themselves, and that they have got a rocket ready to go. And Hal's like, sign me the hell up. This is more like it. And that really sort of kicks off the next big section of the whole thing. And what's fascinating is you are tracking all these over the course of 15 years. So characters are changing their costumes for various reasons. They're changing their modus operandi. The relationships you jump to where they begin, to after a few years, to after a decade of them. And you really sense the history with this, which I think is one of the strongest pursuits.
It's very subtly done, but the sense that time is passing and that you like the Batman that you see early on is the same, probably the same man that you see later on. You don't know for sure, but you don't really know who else it could be. But he's clearly bigger. He's more. He has more presence when you see him later on, and yet at the same time he looks ever so subtly different. Like it's a more modern costume you see, and what I thought was a fantastic line was given that he says, "I want to scare criminals, not kids." Which his original costume had more bat-like ears, looked more terrifying. Cape was almost more wing-like. It just looked more creepy.
Which is in keeping with the original design. Like that was the original costume in 13, sure.
Exactly. And then you see the 60s inspired Batman, and it's almost the same, but there's just something about it that's more friendly when he's standing still that a child wouldn't be terrified of. And yet at the same time, he
gets a kid sidekick too.
Yep.
Which softens him a
kindred
little bit.
Spirits. Yeah.
Yeah. And he does. He gives that line, and they keep it in the animated film also. The animated film is surprisingly faithful to the book.
It is
in many ways.
There are things.
There are some characters they cut. Yeah, you don't get the losers, you don't get the challengers of the unknown. They reconfigure it so that they introduce the threat of the center at the very beginning in a way that they don't in the graphic novel collection that we had. But that's and the big sequence of the flight to Mars, and because you don't have the challengers involved, they put Hal Jordan on the flight. Whereas in the comic, he's not. He's there at mission control. You do, of course, get him, Hal Jordan, getting the ring and meeting Evan Sur and becoming a Green Lantern and figuring out what that means. At the end of the day, King Faraday captures Martian Manhunter, or thinks he captures him, but Martian Manhunter sort of allows himself to be captured. They become great friends. And Martian Hunter helps him sort of realize that he needs to get over these prejudices and paranoia, and that he's got to assemble people for a greater purpose than just the United States of America's glory, in that sense, and that he'll accomplish greater things that way. And the whole thing just keeps going, and it ends up with this big showdown with this unstoppable force called the Center, which is threatening to destroy the surface world. Atlantis is pretty safe, fortunately. They don't really come for Arthur's kingdom at this point. you get to see Aquaman pop up a little bit, and it's beautiful. It's tremendous artwork. And then they all have to join together. Superman is thought killed in the initial battle with the center. They've got to go to a plan B and a plan C, which essentially involves Green Lantern and the Flash using shrinking ray technology all the way at the center's core. And then Green Lantern ends up throwing the center off planet so it can never come back. So they think. But at the end of it, it's basically shown that like if heroes come together, we can do anything in the name of the good of unity as opposed to division. And that's it. It's a really simple overarching plot. Like the fun and intrigue of it is the real world stuff along the way to get there. It's really a book about journey, not the destination. Is this one? And it's a massive amount of characters to keep track of.
It's
Like
absolutely insane.
I
Like
think
the
there's
amount
probably
of
about 2 dozen characters that you're tracking throughout the books, and keeping their history together. Like it's very sprawling for
yeah,
storytelling, for sure.
it's funny. It's a kind of book we we said earlier. The book I would give a new reader to see this is what comics are, and part of it is it's a fantastic story, but it's also this book encapsulates what comics has done over the last 60, 70 years, but it does it in 400 pages, and you get the idea that this history has been here for a long time, and it will be here for 70, 100
Right.
years, way past today. But the New Frontier, it's one of those books, one of those reads that you can say this is a snapshot in time of comics. It's set in the early days of superheroes, and you can read it today, you can read it 50 years from now, and I think it's still going to be just as timeless. Are people going to laugh at some of the technology? Maybe, but it's set in the 50s and the 60s, so it's not like we're saying, "Oh, this is perfectly modern technology." No, it's just this is a tech that they had at the time, and I think it makes sense. It's just I read the book and was blown away. I
Yeah.
watched the movie thinking this is not going to be as good, and it was. Yes, there's differences. Yes, there are things that they cut. I I missed the loser sequence. I would have loved to have seen that. However, it was given that there's 400 pages of this book in the DC compact version. I don't know how much there is in the digital version you read or the original trade.
About there.
I'm not sure.
It was technically I think 520 pages in the version that I read, but that was a lot of like cover gallery and unused cover artwork and like
Yeah, the
I think like it was probably only about 400 pages of actual story.
I think that's probably
In
about fair to what we have in this because there's a lot of cover gallery as well there. So, for argument's sake, it's 400 pages. They got an hour and 15 to 20 minutes out of
Yeah.
DC animation, and somehow condensed the book down, pulled out the core concepts, cut bits that, while I may have missed, didn't have to be in a movie, and adjusted it just enough to make possibly one of the best comic book adaptations I think that there are out there. It's
Yeah.
like if you say, would you rather read the book or watch the movie? I mean, read the book. There is
Yes.
there is an age-old
Always read.
argument. Always read the book. There are a handful of movies that are better than the book, and I think that's more a case of we took inspiration from the book, but we've made it our own thing. Or there's a handful of movies that stand alone, clearly inspired from the book, but like I said, they make it their own thing, or they make use of the physical storytelling medium of moving pictures as in a way that a book just simply can. So few and far between that I would ever recommend a movie over the book. This is not again not one of those cases, but if you can't read the book and you can only watch the movie, you're not going wrong. It's very good. It's just
It's very good,
It's a
and it's a good cast too.
yeah.
Like,
It, I,
I mean,
like
the big one here, like just looking at the cast list, like David Boreanaz is Hal Jordan, and way better than you think he's going to be, because this is
mhm,
around the time I think Bones started airing on NBC. I think it was.
I think
Um,
so.
so
Yeah, because I think the movie's
television actor,
2011.
not a film guy.
Mm.
It was 2008 when the animated film came out.
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
I'm not sure. Um, you have a wonderful character actor who always played bad guys in Miguel Ferrer as John Jones. Uh, fun fact: George Clooney's cousin was Miguel Ferrer. So there you go. Neil
Hmm.
Patrick Harris was Barry Allen, who does a wonderful job, and he pops up in one of my favorite DC animated films, Batman Under the Red Hood, playing Nightwing, and he's phenomenal in that also. But the all time casting is Lucy Lawless as Wonder Woman,
Mm-hmm.
because given Xena Warrior Princess essentially was the next evolution of Wonder Woman in pop culture, and everybody wished they would just make a Wonder Woman movie starring her. This was a real spectacular choice. And Kyle MacLachlan from Twin Peaks fame was Superman, and he's a great Superman. But then you got like Kira Sedgwick and Brooke Shields, and uh, Keith David is the center, and why wouldn't he be? He's got one of the greatest voices in the history of voice acting. Um, but it's a really strong cast. All bring their A game to it, and make it a really great experience. And Darwin Cook has a lot. Do you know Darwin Cook's background? I guess is my question, Alex.
Vaguely, but I feel
So,
like this is a perfect time for you to expand upon it.
a little bit. So Darwin Cook though left home at like 19 to go work at DC. He just brought his sample pages and was trying to get a job at DC Comics. And he gets a job at DC Comics, but he doesn't really make a whole lot of headway. So he ends up going to DC Animation. And so he worked and did the character designs for the new adventures of Batman in, I think it was like 95, where they redo all the character designs after the Superman animated series brings them back. He did the character designs and he did the title sequence for Batman Beyond, which is one of the greatest
Mm-hmm.
visual title sequences in the history of television. Yes, I said it. Prove me wrong, people. Um, and
I
so he
think
worked
whenever
on
you
animation
say as a
a
so
lot.
as an aside, whenever you say one of the greatest, it allows you the room to say, okay, it may not be the greatest, but it's one of the greatest. Like you can't
It's
be
one
wrong
of
when
the
you say
best.
that. Yeah, you can't be wrong when
No,
you say that.
it's foolproof. It's
Yeah,
foolproof. That's why I like putting it that way. I'm right, and I also leave myself room to not be taken like I'm right. It's perfect.
yeah.
Um, so that was really where he was until he got another shot at comics more. And this became his calling card. This was forever and a day. This he basically got carte blanche to do whatever he wanted after this series. Um, and again, if you want more great Darwin Cook stories, there was a book called Batman Ego, that started when he was working with Bruce Timm on character designs, and they basically turned it into a comic as a result of it, which is regarded as the top Batman story ever. He does this. His run on Catwoman is spectacular. Selina's big score is like a top cocky affair heist level book that reinvigorated the character for years afterwards. And he continued to work on the first arc, I believe, with Ed Brubaker, and while they were getting covers from Paul Pope. So imagine that you have Ed Brubaker, Darwin Cook, and Paul Pope working on Catwoman, and wouldn't you know it, Catwoman becomes one of the best-selling series in comics under those three. Um, and then he does a crime series called Parker, that are adaptations of a series of novels. and they're all like sepia tone kind of artwork, all very pulpy, like 60s crime books that are phenomenal. You can get them through IDW. They came out years ago with their sort of absolute edition called the Parker Martini edition that I cannot recommend enough. Darwin just kept making great stuff. It just over and over. Parker became his new calling card outside of Big Two Comics. I don't think he did much for Marvel, if I remember correctly. He was pretty much
He
always a DC guy.
he's
But
primarily a DC guy. He did do a pretty good, or I say pretty good, but I really enjoyed it. 2003, two issue miniseries by Peter Milligan, Wolverine Dupe.
oh, sure,
And
yeah,
and then he did an issue of X Force, again with Milligan. A couple
yeah,
issues of Spider Man. Like nothing consistent, right? Like he did 6-ish, 12, 11 issues of the Spirit. But again, also for DC, it's not
yes.
a
He was big on the Spirit.
yeah. He
That
did
was another
Batman and the
one. He
Spirit.
because yeah, yeah. He was a big fan of the old Golden Age pulpy characters, and you could tell like he
Which
was a big Eisner guy, so he loved the Spirit.
and it also makes sense as to why he did. So he did before Watchmen, Minutemen number 1 through
Yes,
6, and I remember reading at the
which is
time there was a.
arguably the best of them. They
I was
are
I was
they
gonna
are
say
some they are
there's a couple that were really good, and the before the Minutemen series was one of the best. A lot of the rest of them were just a mess. Um,
yeah.
I think that was far and away the best part of the before Watchmen thing that DC tried to release. Uh,
And he won like 13 Eisner awards in his career, and again he was a lot of your favorite comics artist's favorite artist. Like he was truly, that guy, and he inspired a generation of people after. Like Chris Samney will say Darwin Cook was, somebody that helped inspire him. Like there's so many great artists out there that copy that style as they're getting
mhm.
started. Like it became a really, and he's very much the next evolution of a Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko.
Yeah,
Is Cook style. Like you can really see the Kirby, especially in this one, because it is taking place in the 50s and 60s when Kirby and Ditko are getting their thing going. And you're really giving birth to Silver Age comics, which is part of this whole meta narrative when we look at it through there. So it's really it's these like it's not a lot of lines. It's not hyper realistic, as you said earlier, but it's incredibly evocative. And then you get into the actual coloring and storytelling and panel construction, which are powerhouses on every single
I
page.
I always go
Um,
back to Watchmen's layout as some of the best in comics because of how there's a couple of issues that mirror each other from beginning to end. Like you can read it, and if you pay attention to the layout, it's a perfect mirror. I haven't had chance to do that as much with Darwin Cooks, but he's very, very big on the um, 3 panel page, like the 3 horizontal
yeah,
panels. Then he'll break it
yeah,
out in the middle, so it's like 1 long panel across the top, 3 in the middle, and then 1 more long one on the bottom. And there's a couple of segments where that's all it is just 3 panels. And then when he does blow it up, you pay attention to it. And
yeah.
again, so I read the DC compact version. We've said numerous times how it's not always the best for the artwork. For example, there's a Batman Arkham DC compact, and the art just doesn't track like Sam Keith's art just doesn't pop like it would in a bigger page. Some of the lettering is harder to read on the. It's not newsprint paper, but it's like the next step up. It's a bit slightly thicker newsprint paper in the compact versions.
Mhm.
But again, you pay $10 for them, you
Yep.
literally get what you pay for.
Go
However,
out and get this book in
it's
a proper format. and
It
they're out
is
there.
highly recommended to get it in a proper
Highly
format.
recommended it. Yeah.
But again, like even saying that, I was still able to appreciate the art. So I can't wait to read this when I'm
Oh,
effectively getting it in twice the size. Because a DC
there's
compact
a
version
there
is
is a
half the
complete
size, I
collection.
think.
You can absolutely get it in a complete
Mhm.
collection out there. I think it's technically under DC's Black Label now, is how it's sort of
I
marketed.
think so.
Um,
I know
I'm
there's an
not sure.
absolute edition, but
I mean, the Absolute Edition is the gifty edition that you someday want it in for sure. That's one you might have to go to your partner and be like, the holidays are coming
yeah,
up.
yeah.
It'd be pretty great.
I,
Just saying.
I did do all this for you. Uh,
Hey, there you go. I
yeah,
made you a book. Like, come on.
right?
Um, but I mean, if we're gonna wrap it up, final rankings, I give this a 5 out of 5,
Oh,
easily.
without
5 out of 5.
question. Like, I think if I gave anything less than a five, people are like, wait, how do you talk it up that much and not give it a five? Like, what do you consider a five? This
Five
is
out of 5. No notes, no
no,
crumbs.
there's
Just
there's
eights.
no there's no caveats,
Yeah.
there's um
Nope.
no nothing. Like this is just an absolutely top tier comic book. It is again, like this is the kind of book that I would give to someone if I had to pick. So here's a question for you. You did this to me last month. I keep saying last week, but you did this to me
Oh,
last month.
sure.
You have to pick 3 to 5 comics or graphic novels to give to someone. Which ones are they? And
So
this is
somebody
someone who
brand new.
brand new. How do I get into comics? Well, let me. This is my 3 to 5 that I would give you that show you why comics are such a
I
beautiful
mean,
medium.
look, this is the caveat is this will change daily, right?
100.
Like
Oh,
this
absolutely.
is
Like this isn't.
this
I
is what
don't
I
think
can
we
think of
we.
right now.
Yeah, like this is never going to be a definitive list. And I think that
No.
there's. I remember last month we did something similar to this, and by the end of me saying what I thought, I'd already changed my mind. Like it's what you think of
Right.
at the
Yeah.
time.
Well, I'm a hypocrite if I don't put this on there for one of the 5. We'll do 5 because I
Yep.
always ask my guests to do 5, so I will do 5. So I will put this on there as one. I will put um, Jeff Smith's Bone for the YA storytelling aspect of it and sort of the sequential stuff. And um, I'm a crime guy, so to cover sort of crime books, I'm going to put Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' Criminal. I would probably give them Lawless, to show sort of the grittiness of it. For manga and horror, I would probably do uh, Uzumaki for Junji Ito, to show people what you could do on that side of the equation. Um, I would. How many is that? Well, how many have I given? I think it's 3. I think I've given 3. No, 4.
Yeah,
Given
I
4.
was gonna say it's 4. I think.
So I've done crime, I've done horror, I've done superheroes, I've done younger skewing reads. Um, I wouldn't do Kingdom Come because Justice League New Frontier sort of gives you Kingdom Come. It accomplishes the same thing. That would be the other one I could give somebody though. Um, I think I'd like to stay out of superheroes, even though it's so easy to do superheroes. You know what? I'm gonna go with Chew.
Oh,
Chew.
I was
John
not
Layman and
expecting
Rob
Chew.
Gilroy's Chew. So the reason I do Chew is I want to get comedy in there. I want to
Mhm.
get a little zaniness. Um, I want to do a little bit more sci-fi out of the whole bunch. I was debating whether going like with more with fantasy or with sci-fi, but I think Chew would fit the bill nicely. I didn't put in a slice of life like Mouse or Fun Home, which is always something that you wonder about there. But Those are my 5 for right now. I'll stick with those for right now.
Totally fair.
Oh
I guess
shit! No,
my
no, no, nope. Stop, stop, stop. We have not finished. We've not moved on, so I can
the
still switch out.
the irony of
Um,
me saying earlier you're going to change your mind before you're
yep.
done, and
Here it
then
is.
it happening. Yep.
I'm gonna swap out, and this hurts me personally. It's for the greater good of the customer, of the new reader. We're gonna remove Brubaker and Phillips Lawless, and we're gonna add Day Tripper by Gabriel Moon and Fabio Bach. By Fabio Moon and Gabriel Bach, excuse me. Um, for a one-off slice of life ish, but a very different art style that shows you a totally different way of how the comics medium and storytelling works. So there we go. That's my list.
I'll give you mine. I will admit that I do not remember who wrote or drew most of it, but just the impact that I
That's a
had reading it. So
love it.
again, New Frontier, recency bias
Sure,
possible, but New
totally.
Frontier.
Still works.
Mouse. I know you said you weren't going to put
Sure,
Mouse on, but for me, I think it's one of those books that it
it's great.
again,
Seminal.
it transcends comics. It's a story that I
Absolutely.
have someone at work say, do you have you ever heard of a comic called Mouse? And I just raised my eyebrow at them like, do you have
See,
it?
I
And I
would
did my
give
eyebrow just
Mouse,
left up.
if somebody like Day Tripper, Mouse is the next thing I give them. Right? To me, it's like the second book I give somebody. It's not the first
That's
book.
fair. I
But I respect you would give it to them first. It's
it's
incredible. It's a
not
landmark piece of
it's
storytelling.
fantastic, and it's one of those
Yeah,
things where if you're somehow able to get it and not know what the context of the mouse is,
sure.
it's a brilliant story. Um, New Frontier, Mouse. I would also give them Beasts of Burden by Evan Dorkin.
Okay,
Uh, that covers my horror aspect, but it's also kind of oddly cutesy at the same time. But it is
sure.
very much not a kid friendly book. I'm now
2
facing
more.
where you're at. Yeah, see, I'm facing the
Yep,
issue that you would have had. Like, no, I want like the Batman stuff is I love Batman, I love Spider-Man, I love X-Men, but I don't know if
sure.
there's a great way to say, hey, read this or hey, read that.
How does it not already tread the same territory as New Frontier if you
Well,
give a
that's just
second
it.
superhero book? That's
Yeah,
my
and
problem.
that's the thing. Like, if I'm only going to give you one superhero book, it would probably be New Frontier as a global thing. However, if I wanted to give you a more grounded, localized um, superhero story, I would actually look at something maybe like Batman War Games, where it's much more Gotham focused. Um,
Wow, big time. That's
right, it's very focused in on just Gotham. It's a massive chunk, and it shows how Batman plans for everything, but it really only works if you let your folks know what you're doing. And so anyway, uh, yeah, like I'm completely blanking on what the next one would be, and I'm
I
trying
need
to
2 more.
think of things that
You
I have
you did
read.
the.
I
I
know,
want you to know you did this to yourself, Alex.
I know,
Like
and
you
as
opened
soon as
this
you
door.
started speaking, I'm like, I have opened a door, and I am not
This
sure
is this
where.
is not on me. I avoided this question, but you have gone ahead and just like full
So
on
I'm
created quicksand for yourself.
I
Which
have, and
growing up,
I'm
I
gonna.
thought quicksand would be a much bigger problem than
It
it is
is.
in my
It
adult
it
life.
really isn't.
But
I think I've just spun around and I've been reminded of a series that I recommend to everyone
okay,
coming into the shop, and that's Voracious. If if the idea of if getting the ability to time travel and you go back in time and hunting dinosaurs is of interest to you,
sure,
like why not then make dinosaur hamburger, right? Like
love it.
it's I've loved this series for so long. It's one of those things I always pushed people toward. Um, Another series. No, I'll talk about that later. It's not one of my 5. because it's predicated on you have to like Batman to enjoy this series. I think it plays a lot on Batman fandom. I did this to myself, and I know I did
You
this
did
to
it to
myself.
yourself.
And that's the worst part
I can
about it is that
feel
you can
I
feel
can
the
feel your
pain and the
stomach tightening.
desperation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's
He's
actually kind
really
of
flailing, listeners.
he really is. I
Just,
really am.
just
Uh,
doing that thing where he's just like turning around. He's not even
what do I
facing the mic. He's just like
I'm looking at
looking at his
my
shelves,
massive shelves. Do you
realizing he needs to do a better job of organizing them. Like,
I have no idea. Uh, so here's the thing. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say it in um with the caveat that I think that I've already
huh?
said Batman War Games. I would say The Long Halloween because that is one of the quintessential Batman stories. I'm aware that it is something that we said I would stay away from, but if it isn't that, then I looked when I span around and looked at my shelf. The worst part is I don't remember the bloody name of the book. Oh, Green Valley. Have you ever read Green Valley?
Green Valley.
Yeah,
I've not read
it's
Green Valley.
okay. So Green Valley is an Image published book. It is ironically enough. So our store isn't a huge superhero store. Like a lot of us will read it. A lot of the people come in for superhero stuff. But when it comes to what would you recommend us? I think the current biggest recommend that someone is on the kick is Beneath the Trees and Helen of Wyndham. It tends to be one of the book
Sure.
series that we recommend the most. Green Valley was also up there, and it's one of those books where it's set in the medieval times, so it has that fantasy-esque whimsy, and yet midway through something happens, and I don't really want to say more than that if you haven't read it, but something happens, and all of a sudden everything expands so much more, and you're like, huh, well, I didn't expect that to happen, and it's like a self-contained story. I have it in hardcover. Actually still read it every so often. It's just one of those things that's just so much fun to read, to enjoy. Um, yeah, so I would go with New Frontier, Mouse, Green Valley, Voracious, and what did I say with my other one? Oh, Beasts of Burden.
There you go. All right, there they are. Listeners, have you read all these? Have you read none of these? Like, let us know
Yeah.
at Graphic Policy and be like, hey, Alex and Matthew said
You
these would be
really
the
need to
first reads,
prepare
and
these
I've never
better.
read them.
Yeah.
Let us know.
I'm waiting for next month where I know you're going to catch me off guard with another off the top of your head list, or I'm going to try and catch you off guard. I'm like, I got nothing.
Well, this has been New Frontier. Let's get into what has been your favorite geek purchase of the last month. Do you have
So
one?
I do. It actually came today, and it's the stupidest of things. But I got a Magic Keyboard for my
Okay.
laptop, my Mac.
I love this for you.
Yeah, same. And it's the again. So I often when I'm upstairs at my desk, I don't need it. It's plugged in right now because I'm just trying to get used to it because it's a bit smaller than my regular keyboard. So this is the listeners. I know you can't see this. This is it's a Logitech something solar keyboard that I have that I uh, was part of my work at home package from work, which is great, but it stays up on my desk. So then when I'm downstairs on the couch, I'm like, I don't really want to sit with the laptop balanced up on my chest because my cat sits on my lap and I can't really put the laptop on the cat because that's not fair. So now I can have the laptop to the side and the keyboard in a slightly less awkward position that isn't going to risk the laptop falling off. Uh, I've had it for maybe 6 hours and I already love it. It is already fantastic. So I can't wait to see what's coming up. It is arguably one of the more key geek gift or geek purchases that I think we're going to have on the show, unless I'm wrong. So what was
I
your highlight of the month?
Oh man, I can't remember if I talked about it on the last one, but the book hadn't come out yet, so I'll talk about it now. Um, uh, oh, I got a copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark #1, the comic adaptation
Hmm.
from Marvel back in the day that I really have just enjoyed the heck out of. So I think that's probably it. The other thing I did though is I bought a display box of the Queen in Black blind bags. I pre-ordered one of these things.
You, it's
So
funny you did say talk about that a little bit because I saw them afterwards in the shop. I'm like, oh, those are the blind
yeah,
bags. I don't want to pick them up
it's
because then I'll end up
cool.
doing
I
what
can't
Matthew
remember if I
does and
talked
having
about
like
it
so
on
many.
air or if that was after
I
the
don't.
episode.
Yeah, I don't remember. 'Cause I know we spent some
I
time
can't
afterwards just
recall.
shooting shit. Um, so
But
assuming
I
you
I
did
caught
talk about it
I
off
I
air.
got some fun ones though.
Oh,
I got the David Nakayama Mary Jane cover, which was really cool. I got a Virgin variant of the Artgerm Hella cover, which was really neat.
ooh.
I'm just in desperate need for more bags and boards and another short box to get it all in one space.
So
But I
here's
think,
a
yeah, that's it.
sorry. As you may or may not know, our store is moving half a block away to a
Right?
store that a space that's 3 times the size. And as part
Yeah.
of this, once we get set up, we're going to have short boxes in shelving. And one of the ideas the shop owner has had is to invite people from the local community or whomever comes in if they want to take a short box home, art,
Sure.
I say art on it, but do whatever you want to do with it as long as it's slidable back in. You
Right.
could then just draw on it, put it back in, and then we would have comics on it in the shelf, and it would be part of the store's furniture. Um,
Yeah.
I I have no idea what I would do for it. I would love to do something, but again, I'm not creative in a pen and pencil kind of way,
Sure.
and yet at the same time, I might see what I can do, what I can come up with. So um, that's came to mind when you said you needed a new short box. I'm like, oh, incidentally. So if you ever come visit, you are welcome to sketch on a short box or type a story up on a short box.
That's very cool. I might just do that. That sounds neat. Um, I dig this a lot, actually, quite
It's
frankly.
a really cool
Um,
idea. I really like it.
it's a very cool idea. That's a
Yeah.
great job. Great idea by the owner there. All right, and then what is it? Oh, what else are we reading? We
So
always do a little spotlight. So what else are you reading right now for fun, not for the Graphic Policy Graphic Book Club?
so not for the Graphic Policy Graphic Book Club. I just started reading Crucible of Chaos by Sebastian de Castell. I don't know
Great
if you
title.
recall. It's actually a prelude. So Sebastian de Castell did a fantastic series called The Greatcoats, which are the premise is they are traveling magistrates. So they would go
Right.
through the king's judge, jury, and executioner effectively. They'll go through and they will pass judgment on crime, but it's specifically like they do it to be impartial. So if a peasant has a grudge or a legitimate crime or charge against a noble, they will stand in and deliver their verdict. What they also then have to do is, if the noble disagrees and challenges the greatcoat to a duel, the greatcoat then has to defend that verdict. So you'll often find that
Okay.
they're very good duelists, but some of them will excel in swords, bows, that sort of thing. So the duel might be fought in different ways. This the Crucible of Chaos is a prelude to the Court of Shadows. So it's book 0. I don't know why you didn't just do it. It's book 1. That's neither here nor
Good
there.
question.
But it is a. I think what probably happened is he wrote book 1, realized that didn't make as much sense, needed something before it, and then did this. I don't know. I'm genuinely not sure. But this is set in the same world, and you follow. Bearing in mind, I'm only like 10 pages in, but you follow Esther. I think it's Estevar. Yeah, he's he is a great coach, so he's a duelist, but he's also not in the best of health, and he's got to try and solve whatever he's about to solve. Um, I just really enjoyed the cast I was writing. He's just really good. He's got a great series called the Spellslinger series that follows a 16-year-old as he ages up, but he's from a mage society where you have up to 6 elements that you can control, and they're tattooed on your arms which ones you can do. He can barely control one, so he is by all accounts completely useless in a mage battle. But his one trick he can do, you have a lot of fun with what he can do. So he's all about like sleight of hand, like craftiness, that sort of thing. So uh, different vibe completely, but DeCastel is a fantastic writer. He really tells a great story from a first person perspective. What about you? What are you reading currently?
I am reading Casino Royale, the first James Bond
Oh,
book by Ian Fleming. So I've been jumping around all the James Bond novels, the original ones that Fleming wrote. And while on vacation, we showed Lauren's, my partner's cousin, Casino Royale for the first time. He had never seen a Bond movie. He's 25, 26. Never
did
seen
you
a
do
Bond
the
movie in
Sean
his life.
Connery or the Daniel Craig one?
Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig is Casino Royale. That's where we went with it.
I I,
But in
I think
in
that's the right choice. I'm just curious which one you went with.
I agree. I was like, you're coming at it through 2026 sensibilities. Watch Casino Royale first, and then
Mhm.
watch the Daniel Craig movies. Then go back and see some of the other ones. But in watching the movie, I was like, it's time. I hadn't read Casino Royale about halfway through. I've learned so much about Baccarat that I ever thought I would need to know. Um, so and I will say thus far, it is easily one of the best Bond novels. I think Fleming sort of ran into the trap of he worked so hard and so long on the first book, so it's really good. And then sort of as he got more and more successful, sometimes he was turning them out a little bit. The second book, Live and Let Die, is real rough. It's really rough.
I I've I've I've
For
always
example,
heard that you have all your life to write your debut album,
yes.
book, whatever, and then you have 12 months to write the follow up, and sometimes there's no way it's ever going to be as good.
And that was really the case. But enjoying the book so far, as definitely going to be top two or three Bond novels that I'm reading out of the original run. So I'll keep you posted on how it goes, and then after that, I've got a whole bunch of manga to read, and also got on deck probably a book called 1929 about the
Ooh,
stock market crash by
interesting.
Andrew Ross something or other, who's written a bunch of great, very popular financial books like Too Fail, Big Short, and a bunch of those that they ended up making movies out of. He seems to be that guy in Hollywood, but his books are also really good. So I'm excited to read that one. Check it
That
out.
sounds interesting.
All right,
I've also
shall
got
we
a.
shall we do it?
We should, because I could talk again. I could talk books all night, but we should spin the wheel. So I did take the liberty of getting
We
it
got
ready. Um,
we
I
got the
threw
wheel.
some. We have the wheel. Allow me. I've got to share the full screen, I think, because I've
So
just.
originally, the thought process on this month for September is I mentioned them a little bit earlier. So there is an Amazon Prime show that I believe is coming out in September, if I remember correctly, and it is based on maybe the greatest crime series of the last 70 years. Um, and so there are a couple of creators. Their names are Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Brubaker's the writer, Phillips is the artist. They are seminal crime fiction in this day and age when people are like, crime fiction is dead. You can't make money off crime fiction, crime comics, I should say. These two are so good. and have been so good for 20 some years now, almost 30 years that they've been doing it together. They are the premier creative partnership. So Alex has put together our wheel, as you remember from previous installments. Wheel is a digital wheel. We put 6 options on the wheel. We spin the wheel around, and the first option that wins 3 spins is our the books that we will be doing for the next one. So on here, he has put.
I will also
Fatal.
caveat that you can, if you disagree with any of these, I am fine with taking them off. I just
Sure.
I was just taking a look, and this is what I saw that looked. Because I mean, criminal and fatal is a broad
seminal. And criminal fatal are very broad. Reckless has 4 books in there. We'd have to pick one to do. Fatal is a 6-book series, but we could do a chunk of it. Incognito is only 2 books, so that's easy. There's a series called Kill or Be Killed, which makes for one chunky collection. I would remove Pulp, and I would proffer one in addition called Sleeper, which is it's probably the greatest sci-fi noir in comics history, is Sleeper. And when you read it, you'll understand why. So really excited. We're going to spin the wheel. We're going to see, is it Kill or Be Killed, Sleeper, Reckless, Fatal, Criminal, or Incognito? Actually, you know what? Nope, too late. We started.
No.
Idea,
if you,
it's fine.
no, we can. No. Which one is it?
No. The wheel is spun. Fate has it. And Reckless gets the first spin.
I'm really curious what your other idea was.
No. It's fine. Too late. It's too late.
All right.
I was too slow. We're spinning this wheel. We're making this deal. Fatal gets 1. Yep. We've got Reckless. Reckless is interestingly their most recent ones, which is a really interesting.
I went through them, so what covers look interesting.
Reckless is great covers. Incognito gets 1. So Incognito, Reckless, Fatal. Incognito's fascinating because it's about what if a supervillain goes into the Witness Protection Agency.
It was a really interesting concept for me to see how
very cool concept.
How it worked.
All right.
Oh,
Fatal gets 2. So if Fatal wins,
I suppose if Fatal, we'll have to. Sorry, I was just opening the door for my cat. If Fatal wins, I'm really curious whereabouts we're gonna go.
Well, you got Reckless as number 2. So, all right, it may not be Fatal.
It may not. It's very rarely the first one to get to 2, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see. No Criminal yet. The one they're most famous for. Yes, Sleeper. Hell yeah! Come on, Sleeper.
I'm really curious what would happen if we got all of them to 2. Where it would go.
It's not gonna happen. This is not that spin.
It's gonna
I can feel it. Here it goes. It's Fatal.
I actually think this is one of the fastest determinations we've had.
I think it is. Okay. I think it's the fastest so far.
I think so. So we're going with Fatal. Which collections are you thinking of? Because there is a. I mean, I don't want to do just the first trade because I think it's one of those things
I
would rather have
right now.
I guess we should have checked that.
What is even in print for Fatal is the big question. Because I think they've collected it into a giant chunk at this point.
They've done 2. Yeah, there's 5 trades and 2 deluxe hardcovers.
So we would probably cover the first deluxe, I guess. Let's see.
Yeah.
What's available right now? All right. Don't hate me, readers, but I'm looking at Amazon because I want to know what you could buy. Presumably,
and I think
like how easy would it be for you?
Is Amazon great? No, but it is a good way to get.
No. So there is a compendium. It's $59.99
You can get, I think,
for
volume 2 is available. So I'm going to assume that means that the rest of Fatale will be available. Yeah, volume 1. Again, at the very least, it's available on the Kindle store.
yeah, they're all available on the Kindle store. You get all 5 of them on the Kindle store.
Yeah.
So and the Kindle store, the prices are quite good. You know what? Hang on. Let me see. I'm going to use Midtown Comics as our barometer.
That's probably better.
If you can get it from Midtown, you can get it. Comic shops can get it from anywhere. So I'm going to see what the listings are for this. This is all very exciting, listeners. I know you're like, God, they picked a book we can't get.
Yeah, because we ran into this with
Maximum Carnage.
Maximum Carnage is very hard to get.
See, I was gonna pick a different Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips called The Fade Out, which I know is in print.
I am honestly, I
am
late.
Fine. It's too late. It's too late. We've done it. We
have done it.
We cannot do it. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. On Midtown Comics, you can buy Fatale volumes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So, or you can buy the compendium trade paperback, which has, I think, everything. Let's see. So it has, the entire series is the compendium. Do you want to try it? Do you want to try and go through the compendium?
Why not? See what happens.
A lot. It's a lot. It's great.
It is. It's 20 issues. It's honestly, it's probably not that much longer than the New Frontier.
I mean, look, 14 issues was Maximum Carnage. So like, I'm game if you're game. I'll do it.
I'm game. Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna do the compendium, which you can buy. The MSRP is $59.99 US, but you can buy. You can get 15% off if you order from Midtown Comics. You can go to Alex's store, the Comic Hunter in Prince Edward Isles. I'm sure they can order it for you there. If you're in Canada, you can get it at your local comic shop. You can get it digitally. However you want to get it is totally up to you. I might, I think I have all the volumes, so I may not need to buy it. But if I was going to buy it, I would buy it from Forbidden Planet, my local comic shop that I go to every Wednesday, including
it's funny,
tomorrow.
I actually have Incognito behind me, the hardcover version of both. So
the wheel was unkind.
It was, but that happens. That happens.
But this is great because Fatale is very Lovecraft horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's 40s and 50s pulp crime fiction. It was very good, very beautiful. I'm looking very forward to this one. So that will be it. So the September selection, Fatale, Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, can't wait to do it. Make sure that you are following Graphic Policy on all platforms. It's Graphic Policy. Alex, do you anything you want to plug or make people aware of, or should they follow you somewhere?
As has been previously discussed, whilst I have social media, I'm apparently horrifically inactive on everything.
He's very inactive, folks.
Very inactive. I think I used to be more active a long time ago, and then I just stopped.
You can DM him; he just won't respond. But you're welcome to reach out.
It is true. You can find me at most places at Carcossa. It's KARCOSSA. I will eventually respond, maybe. But yeah, I'm not as active.
I'm on social media far too much. You can find me at BackTheKnife1116 on Instagram and Matthew Klein 316 over on TikTok, and most importantly on Bluesky. I am posting about comics and my comics podcast I also do called Comics for You that I mentioned earlier. Cheap plug for that one. We just put out part 2 of our Joe Kelly interview, the current writer for Amazing Spider-Man. It is fantastic. Highly recommend. Go give it a listen. If you ever wanted to hear the writer of Amazing Spider-Man and Deadpool and so many other great, Superman has one of the most seminal stories in the history of Superman. Whatever happened to Whatever happened to Truth, Justice, and the American Way? They actually made a movie about it called Superman versus the Elite. They literally took his single issue and made an animated feature back in the day. So great stuff. And then, you can also pick my book. It's called Crashing, superpowered medical drama. Think The Pit Meets the X-Men. Written by me, art by the phenomenal Morgan Beam, edited by the great Heather Antos from IDW. It's still in print. You can get it for $16.99 for 136 pages. Alex will tell you that is cheap by today's standards. People are charging
also a very good
$19.99 for 110 pages.
Yeah,
so
it is a very good book. It's funny when we were thinking about the books that we were going to promote to people and give people to read. I was like, I could make a legitimate case for Crashing, but I know that would make you really uncomfortable. If I had done so.
Are you kidding me? It's a great first read because it's a medical drama. It's a medical
drama. It has superheroes in it.
Yeah,
and it's standalone. So yeah, Crashing.
Exactly, it's an easy one and done reading experience. You can you can easily move on to the rest of it. So
yep.
But this has been the Graphic Book Club. We thank you so much for joining us. You will hear us again next month. Let us know on the socials, what did you think of The New Frontier by Darwin Cook? What would your first reads be for people brand new to comics? Are you new to comics? Let us know, and let us know what you're reading. And we thank you again for this edition of Book Club.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.